take a look at what happened. Oh.
Moving to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move.
Go. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Moving to spare.
Spare, get ready.
You ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
We're clear.
Let's move. Let's move.
We're clear. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, make sure you guys get the shoe.
Watch out.
Wait.
So yeah, obviously this is very developing. So we just want to get on here and let you guys know like what goes into, first of all, the planning before a rally like this or any meeting where a dignitary, or in this case, a president or former president is in the public, and, some of the planning and stuff that goes behind it, and, reactions to incidents, obviously.
So what we know right now is the former President Trump was shot. It looks like either in the ear or he was grazed. Who
could have been
knows?
fragment, could have been
Could have
anything.
been a
We don't really
fragment.
know. He was injured. From what we saw, he was injured
by a gunshot.
Injured after a gunshot. So it could have been fragment, could have been anything. But after gunshot came, he went and grabbed his ear. So from what I saw, in my experience, and I don't know, maybe you've had the same experience dealing with people that have been shot and have had wounds. I've dealt with numerous people who have been shot in the head or self-inflicted gunshot wounds who have survived, because your skull is a lot stronger than you think. So
it could have ricocheted off the skull.
It's very possible that the round struck him even in the head, and it just drove along the skull line or something like that. But it definitely appears that it struck his ear at least.
Oh, he definitely struck him. He stood up. So immediately you watching the footage of him doing the rally, the gunshot heard goes off, and you can see the president grab the side of his head and realizes that he's bleeding. I think at that point he realizes it was probably gunshots. He immediately dives down, and the Secret Service agents immediately jump on top of him. And it's been reported by the Butler County District Attorney's Office that the shooter was eliminated by the Secret Service counter assault team. There's photos floating around online that this individual could have been on a rooftop.
And
they're saying
and
that
we'll speak to that a little bit later.
Yeah, and they were saying that an attendee who was attending the rally was also shot and killed. So this whole thing is tragic. It's completely despicable. The last time there was an assassination attempt on a president was President Reagan.
Yes.
These things
Although
do
it's
not
a former
happen.
president, but still it's the same thing in my opinion. Former president.
Oh, yeah.
This was an assassination attempt of a political official.
This is history as we know it. We want to get into details more of, from the law enforcement perspective, what goes into these types of things. When you have either a president, former president, or some type of high value dignitary person coming to town, law enforcement, what goes into this? Because I think a lot of people are probably going to be asking, well, how did somebody get a gun into this rally? I think it's been proven now that even a couple hours after the fact that this person more than likely wasn't in the rally. They were outside the rally. But you have all these officers and SWAT teams that are prepared for these types of things. And look, the reality is you can't 100% protect anybody from something like this occurring. You can have all the planning you want, all the pre-planning, but at the end of the day, you just can't 100% prevent something like this from happening. Right. I will say that the Secret Service counter assault team took immediate action after these shots rang out and eliminated the shooter.
Right.
Hats off to them.
Well, just to get into that a little bit. So like before we, talk about their actions or whatever, or for our perceived actions of that. So basically how this goes in my experience, and I don't have a whole lot of experience in it, but I have worked on a time when a president came to our area around here, and I worked that not counter assault or anything like that,
right,
like a surveillance, counter surveillance kind of thing, which tells you that just how much goes into it. Law enforcement agencies, all the 3-letter federal agencies are there, all kinds of things. And this was the active president that I was dealing with. So I don't know how it goes differently for a former president during a rally. Could be the same, could not be the same. But I assume there's a lot of similarities. But as far as the close, what we're seeing for the most part is there is the actual Secret Service people that you see with the suits on, and everything like that. And their job is to protect the dignitary, the president, former president, whoever it is. And so when there's a threat to that person, they go protect them. And they're not worried about the threat necessarily. They're worried about the dignitary. So they're going to go and surround them, get that person to safety. And then there's the counter assault team, which would be the guys that if you watch some of these videos, the guys that look like the SWAT guys wearing black, they got the helmets,
Tactical
they
gear.
get tactical guys. And, I think there were some other tactical guys, and I don't know, in my experience, the Secret Service counter assault guys wear the all black. But I did see some guys wearing greens and
so there's probably local
multicams,
SWAT teams.
which shows you that there's just so many different agencies involved. But those counter assault guys are the reaction. So their job is to take care of the threat, eliminate the threat, stop the threat, and it's also to prevent the threat in before the instance. So again, don't know the whole circumstances behind it, but I'm sure there was sniper units that were there, and they were checking rooftops the entire time. How this guy got up there or whatever, again, I don't know. Maybe it was an area that was really far. Maybe it was an area that, had cover. I don't know the layout, but it's very believable to me that maybe one of those sniper units is the one who took out that shooter, which we, again, don't know.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So the pre-planning of all this stuff, they know that the former president is holding this rally way before that this is even occur. So I think what people need to understand is there is a ton of pre-planning that goes into this.
As far as and even some of it's even kept from local agencies.
Oh yeah,
a lot of it is. They have their planning and they have their thing, and you might get like he's going to be here at this time, and they're going to go from here to there, and this is our ideal route that we're going to close off. There's a secondary, a third, a fourth. There's so many contingency plans that where if something happens, they know exactly, okay, we are going to do this, we're going to do that just en route alone. Now, at the actual event, there is, hey, here's even the threat assessment alone. Like threat assessment's huge.
Yep. So
I guarantee you somebody said, okay, we have this building here. If that is what happened, there was which I think is almost fact now. I don't know if it is yet. I don't want to say for sure, but shooter on a roof, I guarantee you that was like, okay, this is a possibility for a sniper. We want this. It might be, that's pretty far. I don't know. Should we, and there was probably do we have the resources to, maybe take that out of elimination, say put law enforcement on that roof. There's so many things where there's resources and everything go into it, but there's so many contingency plans to the point where they after the former president was shot, they did exactly what they knew they were going to do because they talked about it before. And, talk about the times when a president or former president has been in public since the last time, which was Reagan. This is 40 years ago or something like over 40 years ago.
Yep.
Thousands of times that's happened. And every single time they've said, okay, if this happens, which it happened this time, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. And every single time. And that just shows the in law enforcement, people get complacent a lot. These are not the people that get complacent.
No, and I don't think there was any lack of complacency in this whole thing. I think what happens is it just goes to show you, like I said earlier, like as much planning as you put into this stuff, like there's always going to be a way for somebody to bypass something, right? Like a guy somehow getting on the roof of a building. We don't know. This building could have been so far away that, albeit I'm sure they knew that it was in their threat area, but maybe this guy just, tried to get out of the outer perimeter and get on a roof with some type of maybe rifle that would shoot far enough. But the point is
we could do the what if game all day long, right?
The point is it happened. And so if you watch after the incident happened, and you see the Secret Service personnel swarm Donald Trump, they get him off stage, load him up into a vehicle. Look, all of that stuff is pre-planned.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing. They have driver of vehicles that if something were to happen.
To the point where they got with local law enforcement before that and said, okay, where are your ideas? Because you could look at a map and say, this is the best way, but the locals are going to be like, well, during this hour, there's this, we have an event getting out of this time or whatever. All these things are thought about, and it's not necessarily said, okay, well, that's what we're going to do, because there is a lot of secrecy behind it.
Oh, totally. And yeah, like you said, there's a lot of times when local law enforcement is not going to be privy to all the information that's going on with the Secret Service, rightfully so. But you also got to think too, when something like this happens, especially to a president or former president, there's not too many hospitals probably in that general area. I actually was recently in Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, where this happened, and it's pretty rural. So if you're going to take him to a hospital because that's where he needs to go, you now got to worry about the hospital. That is going to get locked down, and you're going to have a ton of security around that hospital.
I would venture to guess that there, especially when you're talking about the current president, I don't know so much. I'm not going to former president. I don't know. I would assume it's somewhat similar. There's on staff medical staff,
probably doctors.
And there's,
on set, yeah.
There's a facility that they have that's set up for whatever. I mean, that's how far they go into this, where someone has set up a facility or someone has a trailer or whatever it is that they're like, if we need to go into this, and then if we can't do it, we're going to go to this area. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, but it's not a paramedic that is going to be treating the initial thing. It's going to be a trauma surgeon, or maybe even, I'm sure who knows, like the health of some of our presidents is not necessarily trauma based. I'm sure they have heart surgeons ready and, people like that for instance too. Like, I'm just saying that it's not just like, hey, here's what's going on. This is the most important. When it comes to the president, it is the most important dignitary in our nation. Some might say many nations. Former president's pretty far up there, especially when you're talking about an election year coming up. This could be our current president again. Mm-hmm. So, that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah, I think bigger picture, this is so much bigger, and the things and the prep that goes into this is so much bigger than just having a rally, throwing a stage up there, allowing guests to come in. It is so much bigger than that. And the resources that go into this are so massive. The average person has no idea. Even us being in law enforcement,
we don't have an idea.
Don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we truly don't know, like, the super in-depth things that actually go on through the Secret Service. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to share that information. There's going to be information that we'll never know about how this stuff works for obvious security reasons. But the point is this is the history made itself today.
Yeah.
I mean, this was huge.
Yeah.
Somebody actually attempted to assassinate our former president running for presidency in a time right now where things are just an absolute chaos.
Right.
And this actually occurred. When you texted me, dude, honestly, I didn't even know about it. You texted me and I didn't even believe you. I was actually said, hey, I was like, don't text that. Like,
yeah.
And you're like, no, it's all over the news. And I turned the news on and wow. I mean, I was It's unbelievable.
I mean,
to me.
it's not even all over the news. It's all over. I was watching I happened to be watching a golf tournament, the Celebrity Pro-Am going up in Tahoe. I was watching that, and all of a sudden, breaking news, cut away. I was like, oh, immediate reaction to that was, oh shit, something bad happened or something big's happening.
So I want to read the immediate response of, if something like this were to occur, what is the immediate response of the Secret Service? Billy mentioned it earlier. There's different facets of the Secret Service and what roles and responsibility of what people have.
And I just touched on it a little bit. As far as that's a reaction to an assault a threat or whatever you want to call it. There's counter surveillance, there's surveillance, there's tech people, there's
leading into this.
There's drones. I'm sure there's all kinds of camera. There's everything that you can think of. There's people monitoring social media, all kinds of stuff. But go on.
You're right.
Yeah.
There is how do I best say this? There is a truckload of people involved in this stuff, monitoring everything that you could possibly think of. And it could still happen. And it did happen. So here's the immediate response of Secret Service. They have a protective formation. Agents will immediately form a protective barrier around the principal, in this case, which would be the former president, which is the person they're protecting, which we saw that on stage, the folks in the suits jumping on the former president. Then you have an evacuation. The principal will swiftly move to a secure location, typically a pre-designated safe room or vehicle. We also saw that. He was immediately put into a Tahoe and taken out of the area. And that's not the safe location necessarily. No, that's just the evacuation.
That's the evacuation route to the safe location.
Correct.
Which is predetermined, obviously.
Yes.
And there's already people there, and that's probably where there could be medical staff and stuff there too.
And then you have neutralize this threat. Agents will attempt to neutralize the threat by apprehending or eliminating the assailant. That would be the counter assault team that did eliminate the threat in this situation. Then you have securing the scene. They're going to establish perimeters, medical attention, immediate medical assistance is provided to any injured parties, including the principal and bystanders. So in this case, the president. It is sad. It has been reported that a rally attendee was also shot and killed. They haven't confirmed any identities of these individuals, but if that is the case, that is sad. I can only think how that happened was if this person fired multiple shots, somebody probably got struck by a stray bullet. And if you watch these rallies, you have the president or former president up there with a sea of people behind him. And my dad has been to one of these rallies before.
And they're behind, in front, sometimes on sides. Usually there's at least one side that doesn't have people. But
so then you have communications alerting the local authorities. That's going to be coordinated. Notifying senior Secret Service officials and other key government officials. In this case, obviously the current president and you name it, they're going to be notified. And then you have the investigation part of it, which is crime scene management. If the suspect was alive, interrogating him, he's not. And then obviously dealing with the media.
And there could be other suspects for all we know. I mean,
we don't know. Yeah. So at this point, this is only hours after this has occurred. So look, there's so much that is going to come from this. We're going to learn a lot. We don't know everything, all the facts right now. We just know that there's a shooter dead. The former president, there was an attempted assassination on him. He was struck. He's been taken to a medical facility.
Seems to be okay.
Seems to be good.
Yeah.
The most epic part about it was when he was being whisked off stage, they're trying to completely create a human barrier over him.
Oh, yeah.
And he busts through and was given his fist pump and saying,
which I'm
fight.
Sure made them mad.
Yes. And so I want to touch on that real quick. Their responsibility is to protect him. And when you have, they're not wearing body armor, or if they are, they're wearing soft body armor.
It depends. I mean, I'm sure you can see on some of the videos, I think someone's jacket comes off or something. And you can see, but it's very armor-like. It could be a plate of some sort. Yeah. But whatever.
The point is,
irregardless.
These people are, you're creating a human shield for this person. They are willing to risk their life for this one individual. And that goes to show you something. And when you watch that video, they didn't skip a beat. as soon as the president goes down, they were on top of him in a matter of seconds.
And another thing I want to say is like, if you're watching that rally, you don't see those people necessarily.
No.
And I'm obviously I'm not there. So I'm looking through a camera lens or whatever most of us were looking through. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe there was one or two, but once he goes like this and he goes down himself. Seconds later,
A swarm.
It was like, whoa, where, like,
Yeah.
like you guys, and they're wearing suits too, which is like,
It just
anyone
goes,
who's done anything in a suit knows that it's kind of hard
not
to
easy.
move around in.
It just goes to show the level of training and professionalism that they have, that they are literally ready all the time. You mentioned earlier, thousands of rallies, presidents out in the public, and to be on your A game
I would
every
say
single time, all the time.
Tens of thousands when you think of an active president being out in
That's
public.
insane. Yeah,
You know,
that's insane.
it's a daily thing. I would say it's a daily thing. And then you talk about, you know, this is a rally, so they had a little bit more planning, but these people are these Secret Service people are planning when former President Trump goes golfing, you know, whatever it is. Like they have a plan for that, you know, and they're there for that. They're planning all the time. So they are very good at what they do. And I think this shows that they are very good at what they do.
He was off that stage in a matter of, less than a minute, I would say. They had him completely shielded. He was off that stage into that Tahoe, en route to wherever it is that he went. And it had to have been less than a minute or within minutes. That's impressive. So hats off to the Secret Service. You don't ever hear or see about them until something tragic happens. Unfortunately, today that did. This whole thing is mind-blowing to me where we're at, and the fact that somebody actually attempted an assassination.
That's crazy to me.
This is mind-blowing. As I said earlier, this is history in the making. There is going to be a ton more information that comes out about it that we can touch on later. We're reporting this literally. We came down here only a couple of hours.
And honestly, I bet you if I pull up my phone right now, there's more information.
Guaranteed. So more things are going to come
Here you
out.
go. Here's a photo of where the shooter was and where. And this is supposed.
So this is live. Like they're already releasing photos of where the shooter was. So we're going to get into all that, but we just wanted to jump on here, provide you guys with just a law enforcement perspective of this, what goes into these, the contingencies if something like this were to happen. We never want it to happen. Unfortunately, it did, and we are so thankful that the former president is going to be fine. That could have been horrific. It could have just been all sorts of bad news if that bullet would have struck him in the head, or if he would have been in a different position or even turned his head differently. You're talking inches. So we're thankful for that. I don't care what side of the aisle that you're on.
Yeah, no, this is not a political.
This is not a political podcast. You guys know that. This is just.
But this is not a political issue even to me. This is
just an attack on a human life.
This could have happened to anybody or any former president or dignitary or whatever. And I think, we'd be talking the same thing. Like this is disgusting. It shouldn't have happened. Maybe we'll be talking about this differently. Maybe I guarantee you the Secret Service tactics and things will change from it too.
Oh yeah, they're going to learn from this.
The only good thing that I can say that happens from very bad things is in law enforcement we tend to learn our lesson the hard way sometimes.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there'll be lessons that are learned from this that'll go throughout all of law enforcement. This will be something that is talked about and trained throughout the world, probably.
This is going to be talked about forever, and things are going to be learned from this. So that's all we have for you guys. We're not going to sit here and belabor this. We gave you the information that we have. You've all seen it on the news. Like I said, we just want to give you our perspective. So we're going to end on that. We'll give you details.
Furthermore, before we end on it, obviously we're hopes and prayers go to anybody that was there, and obviously we've all dealt with our own trauma, and that's a traumatic situation even for the people that weren't physically injured.
Yeah, and there's a lot of witnesses involved in that. Everybody that is there was technically a witness. If you heard anything or saw anything, you are a witness, and this is going to be an extensive, long investigation.
Oh yeah, we won't hear the the actual extreme facts.
For a long time.
Maybe many years, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be some preliminary facts that come out soon, and then there'll be even more investigation that goes on for
long
months. I mean, I would guess that this area will be shut down for a substantial amount of time. You know, think of a homicide investigation in our area. We shut things down for days sometimes. This will be shut down for weeks, maybe even months. I don't know.
Yeah, it's mind blowing to me that we're even sitting in here reporting on this. I truly never would have thought. It's crazy, but there's gonna be more to come, and we will update you guys with the information that we get through this investigation. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep. Stay safe out there.